Well, for more on the significance of Trump-Putin historic meeting or summit in Alaska, I'm now joined by Ambassador Joe Keshi, a former permanent secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Nigeria. Thank you so much, Ambassador, for joining us on the news tonight.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Great. I mean, historic in all its ramifications. We saw very extraordinary footage in Alaska moments ago when both presidents arrived, sharing a limousine ride. But some would say Putin is the winner already in this conversation. I wonder what you think. A global pariah wanted for international crimes by the ICC. He's annexed a country, but here he is walking side by side with the most powerful president in the world.
Well, I think there are so many ways you can look at what's going on in Alaska today. Trump might learn if he doesn't come out with anything in his pocket, that there is a difference between making business deals and deals in the diplomatic circle. The second thing is, and why people are skeptical about this summit, is that unlike in the days gone by, the preparation has not been as effective to guarantee success. In the days gone by, what used to happen was that the officials, particularly the foreign ministers, would have laid the groundwork. They would have narrowed the differences. And so the remaining one where they have disagreements will now be left for the presidents to iron out. But here you are going to a conference in which Donald Trump, as the president of the United States, has spent the last 3 weeks before camera changing positions here and there. And the Russians only made an appearance 2 days ago where they stated very clearly, in a nutshell, Ukraine is not their problem. Resetting relationship with the United States is the focus of why they are in Alaska. But we wait to see what happens, but if they had done a better preparation of narrowing the differences, and bringing in, look, go back to when Clinton negotiated the deal between Arafat and Israel and so on. It took years of negotiation.
Yeah.
It was at the last minute, with a few issues left, that Arafat and the former Israeli Prime Minister were brought to a summit, and the deal was signed. But this has not been the case, and this is why there's so much skepticism as to what will be the outcome of this summit. But at least if Trump can walk out with a guaranteed ceasefire, that's a plus for him.
Indeed. You are very correct. It's been a rapidly organized summit, but we were initially told this was a one-on-one meeting. The meeting that is underway in Alaska as we speak is now a 3-on-3 meeting, because we are told by the White House that the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, as well as the Foreign Secretary, Steve Witkoff, have joined the U.S. president. On the Russian side, we are told that Sergei Lavrov has joined President Putin, as well as his foreign policy aide, Ushakov. Now, some are saying perhaps this brings reprieve to those who may be concerned as to what is discussed in that meeting. But there are others who say, on the Russian side, you have very experienced diplomats like Lavrov, who has decades of experience in foreign affairs, and Ushakov. But you have a Witkoff and a Marco Rubio on the other side.
That's why I can bet you that it was, if you remember the last time they met, after the meeting.
In 2018.
In 2018. The substance of the note of that discussion was torn apart by Donald Trump, and so nobody have a clear view of exactly what was discussed one-on-one. I think what the Americans discovered at the last minute was that Putin prepared himself far more than Donald Trump. They've held strategic meetings. He has met with his principal advisors, the Minister of Defense, and the economic team. All these are with him in Alaska.
Yeah.
Again, it just shows you how effectively he has prepared. Well, Donald Trump was, as usual, like a showman, holding press conferences every day and, changing position. And two, look, This guy is far more experienced than Donald Trump, let's face it. He's been president for so many years. Donald Trump has just been president for 6 years with a break. But this guy, a former KGB who from beginning has made up his mind, as a matter of fact, one of the sentiments that brought him to office was his anger about the disintegration of the old Soviet Union, which is what he's pursuing now to see whether he can at least have a modicum of what the Soviet Union used to be with. Look, it's not strange at this one.
Yes.
It's not strange that the foreign minister arrived in Alaska with a T-shirt wearing
the former Soviet Union.
The former Soviet. Yes, they were sending a message to the rest of us that this is exactly what they want to achieve either now or in the near future. And for them, Ukraine is just the starting point. So if they get away, taking away Ukraine, the smaller states around, already they are so scared about Russia regaining so much power, which is why everybody is hoping that if Donald Trump can walk away with a ceasefire and later they begin to negotiate a lasting solution. But look, what do the Russians want? And what do the Ukrainians want? The Ukrainians certainly do not want to give up any land. But the Russians want everything, so that's going to make it difficult to negotiate. But at least if they can get a ceasefire, minimally a ceasefire, Donald Trump can return back to Washington and claim some victory.
Well, it will be interesting to see who shows up for the presser at the end of this conference, because Donald Trump had said within minutes he will be able to tell if President Putin is ready to end this war. But then again, we've had Donald Trump tell us he will end this war in 24 hours.
I can guarantee you that both of them will show up at the conference, because this, for the Russians already, this is a win.
Yeah.
Being invited to the United States, forgetting international sanctions and so on, they've made it clear, very clear, that they are coming to state their case for Donald Trump to understand. That is where the problem is. They made it clear.
But Trump also said there will be dire consequences should Russia not de-escalate.
Listen, Trump is not dealing with a very small, innocuous country. Trump is dealing with a country that is, in terms of whether militarily or whether economically or whether politically, you have this is one of the most powerful presidents in the world, for goodness sake. He has more experience than Donald Trump, and everybody knows his position on a number of things. Not to talk of the way he runs Soviet Union as a sole administrator And this is the same man, with that strong power all over the place that Trump has been cutting for years. And this is exactly the behavior of Trump, that he wants to act like a strong man himself.
And that brings me to the point, because we've seen, he does have a towering figure, talking about President Trump, very intimidating figure. And you could see him side by side with President Putin today on the red carpet. And we've seen him impose that figure with presidents in recent time. Zelensky in the White House, Ramaphosa of South Africa in the White House. Will that happen in this meeting?
No. Certainly that can't happen in this meeting. No, you don't deal with Putin like as you dealt with,
Ramaphosa and Zelensky.
Exactly. Come on, you don't, because these are two powerful men, and this other guy, it's years of experience. It's training as a KGB operator and things like that.
Look at them on the red carpet sharing a smile. If you were to deduce anything from this warm welcome to Alaska and the handshake by both presidents, is there any iota of confidence that we'll be getting a positive outcome today from this summit?
It depends. It depends on how Trump is able to manage the situation. At the end of the day, the fellow who stands to lose more is Trump, because he's been on the wavelength, the airways, periodically for the last 3 months, changing positions here and there. Only a few days before he seems to have taken a position that he would deal with Russia if there's no agreement.
Yes.
But in doing that, you have already exposed and placed on the table all your cards. So your opponents already know the game they're going to play. And here is a team. The other team has spent weeks quietly preparing, And both the president, Putin, and his foreign minister, they are speaking with one voice. They've said it very clearly. They are coming to state their case.
Let's look at Ukraine, which is the fulcrum of this summit they're having, but has been excluded. That's what we refer to as shaving a man's head in his absence.
I was just going to tell you that you don't shave a man's head in his absence. You know, the guy has been brilliant in making it clear. And I must say, look, at the end of the day, he can also claim some victory.
How?
Up till 2-3 days ago, Donald Trump was not sounding the way he was sounding about Ukraine. He, working with the Europeans, and having had this Zoom meeting with Trump 2 days ago, I think, Trump's position has really changed, almost in favor of Ukraine. So, to a large extent, they are very hopeful in Ukraine that if he maintains that position and does not change again, they could get something out of this summit. But it's very clear going on to this summit, Trump's last position was that, look, if he's not ready for a ceasefire, there will be consequences. But you know, when you talk of consequences, you are not talking of a small, innocuous nation. You're also talking of a nation that has been under sanctions for 3 years and has not felt it.
It hasn't crumbled.
It hasn't crumbled. So you must actually, so that's why I said at the beginning, Trump is going to learn one way or the other, depending on the outcome of this meeting, that there's a difference between making business deals and making deals in a diplomatic circle from a complex and complicated issue.
Well, Europe and, to be frank, the rest of the world is also watching this summit very closely as we are here in Nigeria to see its outcome. But should it go sour, what then does that portend? Are we at a risk of Ukraine annexing more? Because there are concerns that beyond Ukraine in this conversation at this closed-door summit, Putin may also be pushing Donald Trump to ease the sanctions on Russia.
But that's the point I've been making, that they came
to state their claims.
To state their case.
Their case.
Which include rejigging.
Sanctions?
Rejigging their relationship with the United States. So they have two objectives. If they can make a deal on Ukraine, they also want to make a deal with the United States for improvement of relations between the two countries. So that's why they are in, so it depends on which one. So if they are going to, the problem I think the Russians are going to have, what do they offer Donald Trump in order to get what they want? I think that's what we look out for. And
should it go sour, like I was saying, what then next? With Europe, with NATO, what happens next?
The war continues, and again, it will depend on whether Donald Trump and the Americans will come to their senses and realize that the only way to win, to fight Putin is to supply Ukraine with what they need to fight. It's as simple as that.
An economically strong and viable Ukraine.
Absolutely.
Of course, militarily strong as well. Ukraine is what can survive a Putin from Russia.
Precisely.
Well, thank you so much, Ambassador Joe Keshi, former Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
My pleasure.
For sharing your thoughts on this summit, which we are keeping an eye on, currently underway in Alaska.